Hello, I'm Rudy Giuliani, and I'm back with Rudy's Common Sense. Today's episode will be a little different in that I'm going to be describing, to some extent, things that happened to me. I mean, usually when you recite about current affairs or history, you're talking about other people. And this is a little odd and a little strange, but I think this is necessary in order to explain to you what happened for a very simple reason. If this can happen to me, it can happen to you. If it can happen to me as the lawyer for the president, which is the sole reason it happened, as you will see, honestly, it could happen to anyone. And this isn't the first time that the Department of Justice, at least over the last 5 years, has gone totally out of control without any regard to the Constitution of the United States, doing things that would have been unheard of 10, 15 years ago, raiding lawyers' offices, conducting dawn raids on cases that involve nonviolent crime in situations where there's no suggestion or valid reason to think evidence is going to be destroyed. So if this were an isolated incident, I'd keep it between myself and the court, and I'd litigate it and win. But it isn't. This fits in the category of what I believe my mission is, which is to point out the invasions of our constitutional rights by this Biden administration, this Democrat left administration, and by their allies who verge on not just socialism, but communism. This is happening a lot now, whether it's free speech, freedom of religion, freedom to defend yourself, or the Fourth Amendment right to be secure in your home, and the Sixth Amendment right to counsel. So let me start from when it started almost a week ago for me. I was asleep. It was 6 a.m, and I heard banging on my door. Very, very serious banging on my door. Very loud. Don't think that had ever happened before in the years that I've lived here. I am subjected to threats. I don't take them all that seriously, but they're still there, numerous ones, and a couple of ongoing ones for a long time. The Iranians made an attempt on me and Madam Rajavi and Newt Gingrich a couple of years ago, and they came there to bomb our event. Another one earlier than that. I don't need to mention all those, but I'm just pointing it out that it would be different, if I was in a different line of work. So I'm usually careful about things like that. So I went to the door. I looked through the peephole. I'm in an apartment, and I saw a group of men in suits outside. Once I saw them, I had a pretty good idea who they were, since I spent about half my life working with them. They clearly were FBI agents. They were dressed like FBI agents. I can tell the difference between FBI agents and, let's say, drug enforcement agents or police detectives. And I said, show me your credentials. So the lead agent showed me the credentials through the door. I recognized them as FBI and let them in. They presented me with a search warrant. And when I saw the search warrant, I was really shocked. First of all, I was shocked that they were there because my lawyer had just a few weeks earlier offered the United States attorney the opportunity to talk to me about any concerns he might have that I committed a crime, because I don't commit crimes. I lead my life not to commit crimes. And if you know my background, I think you would have a pretty good idea exactly why. And so I said, my first reaction was, this, gentlemen, this is really unnecessary. There's no need to do this. But before they said anything, I said, I realize this is your job, and I just ask you to do it as carefully as you can. I know you have to look, but can I look at what you're here for? He said, absolutely. So I read through it, and it was based on an allegation, not sourced or no one identified as the person making it, as usual, that I had on one occasion failed to file a form with the government for being an agent or a representative of a Ukrainian official or person. Now, I've never been an agent with the United States government for a Ukrainian official or person. I've never been an agent in front of the United States government. in 20 years that I've been out of the mayoralty in both my consulting business and law business, I turn down those cases. I refer them to other people. And if there's anything close about it, I put in the contract, I will not act as a lobbyist or foreign agent. You can find scores of people that will tell you that, and I could probably add up for you the amount of money that I turned down, including enormous amounts of money to do that. It's not that there's anything illegal about it, and I don't look down on them the way some people do. I think they're very good people, and they perform a good role. And then there are some crooks, like politicians, some really good people and some crooks, probably more on the politician side than the lobbyist side. But I don't like to do it because I like to be thought of as a lawyer. I was brought up to be a classical lawyer. And to me, this isn't a job, it's a profession. And that's what I do. I don't lobby. I argue cases in court. I argue cases with the government. So if I go to the government, I'm not lobbying. I'm by and large arguing with them. So, or making a deal with them. So this is totally untrue. So you've got to understand my reaction to it was shock, but I tried not to overreact. Because sometimes when you're falsely accused, you get really angry. And you have a right to, but I've been through this enough so that I control myself. And I said, well, if you want, I can help you in any way find the things that you want. Because I saw they wanted all electronics in my apartment. And I said I could probably give you 80% of them like that. They said, no, we really have to do it ourselves. You know that. And I said, yeah, that's right. And he said, why don't we sit down and we'll talk about it. So I sat down with the lead agent, who was a perfect gentleman, as were all the other agents. I credit them with great professionalism. Unlike the raids they conducted on Michael Cohen and Roger Stone, they were not wearing those military uniforms that made it look like they were arresting, bin Laden. They didn't knock down the door. They didn't have CNN with them like they did with Roger Stone. However, I did find out that a group called Lincoln Project, Tucker Carlson reported this, knew about the raid and put something out about it several hours before it occurred. So, they couldn't help themselves but to leak it because they've leaked everything about this case, and that is disgusting. And the Justice Department has done nothing about it over 2.5 years, and the fact that they've done nothing about it means they condone it. Because if I had this case, everybody in it would have been polygraphed by now, and the person leaking be gone. But that's what an ethical prosecutor does. And this group is far from ethical, as you will see. Well, after 2.5 hours, and a long conversation with the agent on that, and as you might imagine, other matters, cases in the past. He wanted me to tell him about the commission case. He wanted me to tell him about Louis Freeh. He wanted me to tell him about all kinds of things. Very nice conversation. And a very, very fine man. When it was all over, they put all the property they wanted on my dining room table. And it looked like about 13 or 14 pieces of electronics. And they started going through them. And I picked out the ones that were not mine. I pointed to a laptop that was loaned to me when we were investigating the hardtop, because I needed a special kind of computer for a while before I could buy that kind of computer. And it really belonged to someone else, I told them. And then they found an old tabletop computer. They used to sit right on this desk right here for years. Hadn't been used in years, and really more or less belonged to my former wife. It was put away somewhere deep in a closet. And when we exchanged homes and property, I missed it. But I did identify it as hers, thinking they wouldn't need to take it. But they did. They took that and they took the other. And they said, we'll make that determination. I said, well, fine. And then we got to, at the end, we got to 2 or 3, definitely 2 hard drives. And I don't know if they asked me what are those or I volunteered. Those are Hunter Biden's hard drives. Now, what does that mean? And what would they understand that to mean? That means they contain everything on Hunter Biden's personal computer for about a 6-year period during which he committed 30 crimes, his father 10, all documented there. Powerful evidence that has been suppressed, covered up, censored. Nobody wants to talk about it. you get canceled if you talk about it. And I said, well, that's his. Remember, the warrant called for all electronics. They said, oh, we don't want that. I was surprised by that because it did say all electronics. And they were keeping the two that I identified as somebody else's property. And I said, are you sure? First of all, they could be in trouble because the judge signed one for all electronics, and now they're not going to take these two. And I don't remember if I said to them there or I said to my lawyer, but in any event, the conclusion was they took my word for it. I mean, the only indication they had that was not mine is my saying these are Hunter Biden's hard drives. I guess if I had said all of this is Hunter Biden's, they wouldn't have taken any of it. I mean, it's absurd. And when they left, I did say to them, you left behind the only incriminating evidence. Everything on there is privileged, which is a travesty that you're going to go look at it, not having known that they had spied into this for a year and a half anyway. I didn't know that at the time. I said, you've left behind the only evidence of crimes. And ironically, evidence of failure to file as a foreign agent, which Hunter Biden did many times in comparison to the one false allegation against me that resulted in my home being invaded. His home has never been invaded, even though there are multiple times where he committed the same thing alleged about me, and where it's not true about me, it's proven by records with regard to him. One is particularly egregious. It involves the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, when he was a Deputy Secretary of State. And it's a meeting that was arranged about Burisma, which is the very crooked Ukrainian company that Hunter Biden got millions of dollars for, which if you read the transcripts or the text carefully, he shared about half of that with his father. I know you don't know that because the press suppresses that. But if you read the hard drive, which I was trying to give to them, Hunter explains that to you. You can see why they want to get rid of me, don't you? There are people that know that hard drive better than me now, but probably no one knows it better than me for the purpose of how you would use it to prosecute a racketeering case. Guy is a specialist in that, kind of organized that originally, and I can draw you the chart of the Biden crime family, and that hard drive gives you about 3/4 of the evidence that you need. Certainly gives you enough evidence to indict and get to a jury. And then there are independent witnesses as well. That's why they didn't want the hard drive. There are crimes there that are crying out for honest, decent law enforcement to do something. I explained the numerous failures to file as a foreign agent. Not just him, but some of his business partners. The Blinken one is the most dramatic because it eventually involved, and the text pointed out, that Hunter Biden was brought in the back door of the State Department to meet Blinken toward the end of the day. That's our present Secretary of State, who's got a lot of questions to answer about Burisma because he had an involvement in it. Could have been involvement in it in trying to stop them from doing the unethical, criminal, and obviously the substantial conflict of interest that they were doing. Or it could have been helping them. I don't know. But I do know that what they came into my apartment about, he demonstrably did on a hard drive that they've had for two years. And they've never even questioned him about it, much less broke into his home. Do you think that's fair? Do you think that indicates that the Justice Department works for one side, that it is a secret police of the Democrat Party? I'm sorry, but Jim Comey made it that way. And those agents, good men, those agents are carrying out unconstitutional and illegal assignments. And I know they don't realize it, and I don't blame them, and they shouldn't be penalized for it. But it's a shame what has been done to one of the greatest law enforcement agencies in the world and been turned into an arm of the Democrat Party. And this goes back now to when they fixed the Hillary Clinton case. But I saw direct evidence of it when they refused to take the Hunter Biden hard drive. And I have seen it for quite some time, since they've had that hard drive for a year and a half. And it contains a complete explanation of how the money was divided among the people who were getting the bribes paid to Biden, because that's what they were. The Ukraine money, was not for Hunter Biden. You know that. Just your common sense tells you that. The Ukraine money was a lot of money, and it went to the big guy, Joe Biden. And Hunter explains to you exactly how that happened over a 30-year period. And then you have the other transaction with the Chinese, in which the big guy is cut in for 10% of the $10 million a year that he, his son, his brother, his sister-in-law, the whole big Biden crime family is going to get from Chinese Communist Party members, high level, one since executed. These people were the partners of the current president of the United States 2 years ago for a contract giving him $30 million a year, of which he was going to get 10%. It's all in writing. It's time to take a short break. I accomplished a lot in 2020, exposing the truth, establishing the relationship with you, working tirelessly for America. And I came to know the work and value of the people at American Hartford Gold. You see, you buy gold not only for what you know, but you buy gold for what you don't know. American Hartford Gold is the company you can trust when it comes to buying gold. They sell physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or inside of your IRA. In the precious metals industry, they are the highest rated firm in our country, with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied clients. Give them a call and tell them Rudy sent you. And be sure to ask them what I bought. And if you call them right now, they will give you up to $1,500 of free silver on your first order. Folks, these are uncertain times. The one thing you can count on to protect what you have worked so hard for is physical gold and silver. So don't wait. Call them now. Call 833-GOLD-777. That's 833-GOLD-777. Or text Rudy to 65532. Again, that's 833-GOLD-777. Or text Rudy to 65532. So let's return now to the even more shocking revelation. The next day or the day after, my lawyer, Robert Costello, called the United States Attorney's Office, as is usually the case, to work out how we would do this. And of course, he raised some objections that the FBI for a year and a half have been leaking, and the Justice Department, they had this investigation, and I never destroyed anything. What made them think that, oh my goodness, now he's going to do something with the evidence? They seem to not have an answer. And then, let me see if I can have this as accurately as possible. And then they told my lawyer that on November, let me get the date exactly right now, that in November of 2019, they got a covert search warrant. And they got a covert search warrant to take all of the contents of mine from the iCloud. And the dates that they wanted were May 1st, 2018, through November of 2019. I've forgotten the exact terminal date in November. But the more important date is that May date. Why were they interested in just, going back to May 1st? Why not April 1st? Why not the beginning of the year? Why not earlier if they thought I was some kind of criminal and they were looking for criminal activity on me? May 1st is the day approximately the day I began representing Donald Trump. It was all over the newspapers. Think about that. That warrant getting all of my information on the hard drive from May 1 of 2018 to November of 2019, which is approximately a year and a half. That was a year and a half that I represented him as his counsel in the Mueller investigation, in the phony Ukrainian impeachment. So therefore, they would have gotten a massive amount of attorney-client privilege material. I can't quantify it. I don't remember it exactly, but I would say that there's probably more privileged material there than non-privileged, and almost impossible to separate it because it's inextricably combined, and they wouldn't know some of it. Also, not that these people who have no concern for the Constitution care about this. It also contains communications with other clients of mine. I am in the practice of law, and when they raided my home, they did the thing they only do to Trump lawyers. They raided my office. Now, I never heard of raiding a lawyer's office. Never heard of it. I think this practice has to stop. Otherwise, people are not going to have the attorney-client privilege any longer. When someone asks me, can I keep your communications confidential, I have to say, I got to qualify that just in case the Southern District of New York doesn't want to go take my iCloud without telling me, right? That completely vitiates the privilege given to us by the Bill of Rights. And we believe, many of us, from God. The Southern District of New York has no right to do that. I don't know who they think they are. They may think they're God. It's outrageous to go into a lawyer's office for a case like this. Maybe for any case, but certainly for a case like this. One failure to file as a foreign agent when Hunter Biden has dozens, when Hunter Biden has a case on that hard drive that they've had sitting there burning up the desk of whatever agent has it, in which there is a clear, provable, couple of pieces of paper prove it, that he lied to get a weapon. He said he wasn't a drug addict. If they looked at the hard drive, they'd see that 5 days earlier, he was driving around with a crack pipe in his mouth. The no is a felony that everybody else gets arrested for and goes to jail for. He doesn't even get investigated for it. They certainly don't bang his door down at 6 a.m, but he's a Biden. We got special rules in America. Or how about the child pornography and the statement by Hunter Biden admitting he's a danger to the children? Nobody worries about those kids. Nobody worries about what was said about him being a danger and his own admission of it. It's there on the hard drive. If the FBI or the Delaware police had the integrity, independence, and courage to put the safety of the children ahead of their worry about political revenge. And finally, that takes longer. The hard drive contains massive evidence of a 30-year-long scheme in which the Bidens made millions by selling his public office. I'll mention the ones you know. There are more. Ukraine, millions. Half of it to Joe. 3.5 million from the crooked wife of the crooked mayor of Moscow, close friends of Putin, who colluded with the Russians. Trump didn't. Trump didn't get 3.5 million, or his son, from any Russian. Biden did. And Hillary made a fortune with Russians. And these people engage in projection. They attribute to you the crimes that they commit and get away with because they are empowered by the press to do it. Then we have so much money from China, it's impossible to count. And on 2 different occasions, and massive investment in a private equity fund in which the son of the vice president is a partner with the government of China, while the vice president is supposedly negotiating with China to protect the United States and losing every negotiation. Oh, there's money from Kazakhstan, there's money from Romania. all ignored my one failure to file, in which I have offered 4 times to come and explain to them, has been leaked to the newspaper about 8 times. They've done nothing about that. And then they bang on my door at 6 a.m. Somebody puts it out beforehand, and they get a big splash in the newspapers. But they had most of this material already. So when they took my iCloud, they took everything for a year and a half. Everything. All during the time of the most heated and most intense attorney-client discussions between attorneys. Attorneys make memos of legal things. They draft, they redraft, they send it back and forth for changes. The government, the prosecutors, had that information. Remember, this was while they were actively investigating him for those ridiculous charges from Michael Cohen. They had the benefit of spying on his defense while they were investigating him. I hope it outrages you if you're a Democrat. I hope it does, because I'm going to say this, and if it doesn't outrage you, I'm not sure you're an American. Abraham Lincoln said we're tied together by values, not ethnicity, not religion, not nationality. We're tied together because we believe we have a civic religion, and tied up in our first 10 amendments. We believe in free speech, freedom of religion. We believe in being secure in our homes. It was a very important part of the Bill of Rights, because the British used to break in with phony warrants like this on the colonists. And particularly the delegates from the North and from Boston and New York were subjected to that behavior quite a bit, and were insistent on a Fourth Amendment that would make you secure in your home. Well, we've come back to the British troops going in with phony charges for the purpose of public display, because they leaked it in advance, which they have the practice of doing. So they had all that material, and when you put the two things next to each other, in taking the material from me now, there's only 28 days of the year and a half that they haven't already seen. A year and a half with the material, haven't charged me with a crime. They can't do any better than an allegation of a failure to file after a year and a half of going through all of my iCloud. Just to show you how pernicious, how out of control, and how much the FBI that I loved. I was the G-Man of the Year 4 years ago. I was selected by the FBI as the most outstanding representative of what the FBI stands for of any civilian. When I was a little boy, I used to send away, for make-believe FBI badges, and I used to play FBI. I was there for the inauguration of the new building of the FBI by President Gerald Ford, and I was really, really proud. And I can't tell you how many cases I worked with the FBI, some of them at risk to my life and theirs. So there was an FBI, certainly as late as when Louis Freeh was the director, that was exemplary, exactly what a little boy should look up to. The present FBI is a disgrace. Not the agents, but the politicians at the top have completely corrupted it. Might as well be working for China, Venezuela, East Berlin in the old days. No penalty for the FBI here. No penalty for Comey's lying. No penalty for McCabe's lying. No penalty for framing Trump. No penalty for Strzok and Page and what they did. No wonder they felt empowered to do it again. At the time, many, many thoughtful people said these people have to be punished as a deterrent to others. Well, they're not being punished. It's just the opposite. It's encouragement to others to use these tactics to use the tactics of just invading someone's iCloud who's a lawyer to the President of the United States at a time when he is in intense preparation. You can't miss attorney-client privilege documents. And you know how they were going to protect us? Protect the president? Unilaterally, they were going to decide what was privileged and not. Oh, that should really make your heart warm, right? As a lawyer, I should really say, oh, wow, that's great. Or as a lawyer, I should say, that's one of the most corrupt things I've ever heard. You're going to make your own decision? Look, you're prosecuting him, you're spying on him, and then you're going to decide what you're going to use. When you have a debate over attorney-client privilege, the only way to really know if it's attorney-client privilege is to ask the attorney. And how about my other clients? They wouldn't even know who they are. Generally, this is done by subpoena, where you sit down and you put up one pile, not privileged, another pile, privileged, then maybe a judge will appoint an independent monitor, and you go through them. And I get a chance to argue for my client that this is privileged. And before they ever get to see them, somebody independent has agreed or disagreed with me. They read through everything. But they had a taint team. I mean, one group read through everything. Privileged, not privileged. Privileged, not privileged. Then turned over what they said was not privileged. But the FBI read everything. If this doesn't result in quashing the search warrant, quashing the first search warrant, declaring that everything they seized is fruit of the poison tree, and if they are not sufficiently penalized for this at the very top, not the agents who did it, but the ones who knowingly made the decision, this is just it's going to mushroom. They're going to do this against all Republicans. That's why I say to you, what happened to me and the president can happen to you, because the response to these crimes by the Democrats, going back now 5 years, has been to do nothing about them. I don't know if it could be worse. Could it be worse than this? Yes. They also leaked to at least the Washington Post, the New York Times, and NBC a complete, absolute lie that became the headline, as you see, in the Washington Post story, that the FBI had briefed me and representatives of OAN, One American News, the very fine cable news station, about Russian involvement in Ukraine. And it was supposed to be a very stern warning. And then we went ahead and did it anyway. That's pretty serious, isn't it? I immediately, as I have done 100 times with the Washington Post, and maybe 80 with the Times and 200 with NBC, pointed out it was a lie. Now, many of those just don't get responded to, even though I have the proof contrary document. I 5 times denied I was a lawyer to some client who they want to connect me with, and I never even met the person. Every 6 months I deny it. They just print lies. I know it's hard to accept this. And I know people think you exaggerate this. When you read the Washington Post, the New York Times, or listen to NBC News, you have no idea whether they're telling you the truth or not. It's so filled with lies that it's just not worth watching. I mean, you got to spend time hiring investigators to go out and figure out if it's true. Well, here's what was false. They never briefed me. And they never briefed OAN. Some FBI agent told them that. And they printed it. They made it look terrible. And then they printed a retraction, very vanilla retraction, hardly expiating the damage they did. The Post did do it near the top of the story. The Times buried it. You couldn't even find it. And NBC sort of mumbled it. Certainly not commensurate with the damage they did with their lie. But worse than that, they still continue to take leaks from that group in the FBI. We've told them for a year and a half they've been lying to them. Now they get caught with their pants down, but that's okay. We'll continue to listen to the lying FBI agents. Or, look, I said FBI, could be an assistant U.S. attorney. Having been an assistant U.S. attorney, having been a United States attorney, in an office that was very ethical and very productive with regard to crashing organized crime, Wall Street terrorists, and Nazis, I tend to, be biased in favor of assistant U.S. attorneys. But the behavior of this office for the last 5 years, it clearly is afflicted with a very bad case of Trump derangement syndrome. The way they treated him during the investigation was horrible. Leaking. And then they said, well, they didn't leak. Well, then how do we all know about the case? I mean, how do we find out about it? I certainly didn't leak it. We found out about it because they leaked it. And then they always say, well, it's the FBI. Well, I don't know if that's true. So then put everybody under oath. Put everybody under polygraph if you're serious about the ethical obligation. But they're not. They want the leaking. When it happens a third or fourth time and you do nothing about it, you want it to happen because they are hack politicians, not professional lawyers and prosecutors who take seriously the oath to do justice. They want to do political revenge, not justice. That's why they refused to investigate Biden when they had clear evidence way back 5 years ago that Biden was involved in crimes. And they turned it down, and there's a lawyer named Bud Wilkinson who can explain that to you. They turned their back on it, and instead they pursued the charges against Trump, which they leaked and never brought a charge. Please, will somebody do something about them? They're a menace. What else do we have to show? Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, they're a menace. Now, the only reason Democrats may not want to do anything, but I think these are just the dishonest ones because they don't investigate Democrats. But that may change someday. I know there are so many Democrats that are honest people, as honest or more than many Republicans in some cases. Please take this seriously. It involves you. I am a lawyer for 50 years. I'm a fighter. I understand this system as well or better than anyone. I can defend myself. You get caught up in this, I don't know if you can defend yourself. And we would never, ever have conducted ourselves like this. When I was U.S. attorney, these people would have lasted, until the day they did it and they'd be fired. We wouldn't even worry about the explanation unless it was clearly a mistake. And then you'd cut it out. Then you'd stop it. Just like if you had prosecuted Comey, this might not have happened. Just like if you had put the agents that leaked from Mueller under oath, under polygraph, this might not have happened. They can stop the leaks if they want to. They want the leaks because they're about politics. They're not about the equal administration of justice. So let's take a short break and we'll be right back. Your credit card company found suspicious charges on your card. That's simple identity theft. It's annoying, but they cover it. The type of fraud you really need to worry about is home title theft, a devastating crime that takes you off your home's title. And you're not covered by insurance or most identity theft programs. That's why you need Home Title Lock. Here's how easy it is for cybercriminals to get you. The title documents to our homes are kept online. The thief forges your signature on a quitclaim deed stating you just sold your home, and he's the new owner. Then he borrows money using your home's equity and leaves you in debt. You won't know until late payment or eviction notices arrive. The instant Home Title Lock detects someone tampering with your home's title, they help shut it down. Let's get you protected. Go to HometitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim. And enter Rudy for 30 free days of protection. That's promo code Rudy at HometitleLock.com. Thank you for coming back. If we are ever going to return to being a country that is united, with regard to our fundamental beliefs as Abraham Lincoln defined American citizenship. It's based on beliefs, not anything else. If we're ever going to return to that kind of unity, we can't have this double standard, this dramatic double standard. Look, I'm Donald Trump's second or third lawyer to have been raided, having had his law office raided, not just his home, with the specific intent of getting the attorney-client privilege documents. Don't let them lie to you. That's why they dated it May 1st, rather, which is approximately the day I started representing him. They didn't want anything before that. And then they took a year and a half while all those intense theories were being discussed and analyzed and debated and memos back and forth. The other side, because this side was investigating him also for alleged crimes, they had the benefit of spying on the defense. I mean, that has to be suppressed and disciplined. Just like the other things, had they been disciplined, this might not have happened. From the day I heard Joe Biden's name raised by the people who came to me with the incriminating evidence all the way back in 2000 and all the way back in 2018, I knew this was going to be a problem. I knew, and I told my colleague, they're going to go after us, not him. They're going to kill the messenger because he's a protected guy. He's like in that Hillary category. But I didn't know how protected. Wow, the corruption is way beyond what I ever imagined. And make no mistake about it, they want to destroy me. In every way they possibly can. They want to destroy my reputation, my ability to make a living, my ability to have any credibility, and I think they'd very much like to put me behind bars, even though I didn't commit a crime. Because I committed a crime in that I'm the one who discovered this. It was given to me on both occasions. The original incriminating evidence was given to me as part of the collusion in Ukraine that Hillary Clinton paid for with her $1.1 million. And some of that information has been destroyed as a result of the case that Biden fixed with Poroshenko. And that was an organization run by George Soros. So Biden did a great deal of damage with the bribe, with that one bribe. He did a great deal of damage with other bribes too. But if you just listen to him on tape, you got a bribery case. And then you contrast it with Trump's conversation, which is totally different, and you can see what they do. In order to take pressure off them, they project the crimes falsely on Republicans that they commit. Collusion with Russia. Trump didn't do it. They did. Biden took money from Russia. Hillary took money from Russia. Bribing the president of Ukraine. Trump didn't do it. You read the conversation. Biden did do it. I know you see the double standard, but do you know what that does to Americans who believe in Donald Trump or believe in the fair administration of justice? It makes them bitter. It makes them discouraged. It makes them lose confidence in their government as being an honest government. Every single thing I did here, I did as a lawyer in the highest tradition of my profession. When I represent someone or prosecute a case, I've done both, I give my heart and soul to it. During the time of a trial or an intense investigation, I don't think about very much else. I know how important it is. When I was a prosecutor, I knew how important it was not to prosecute an innocent man, and many times decline prosecution when there were doubts. And as a defense lawyer, the biggest and most difficult thing you can do, the greatest pressure on you really as a lawyer, is when you're representing a man or a woman in a serious criminal case where their liberty can be taken away from them. I can't think of any more pressure than that. Maybe a capital murder case, but that's essentially the same thing. And it was worse in this case because I knew he was innocent. I was there on the campaign plane. I was there in the campaign headquarters. I was with him virtually 24 hours a day for 4 months. Very often I was in the room next to his. And had there been any Russian collusion, I would have known about it. Well, it turned out there was no Russian collusion. That's not just words. That's a very serious thing. They were framing him. They were framing him. Schiff got up in front of a camera and said he had definitive evidence, direct evidence of Russian collusion. Now, Schiff has never been asked to produce that. That's a lie. That's an obstruction of justice. How many others did he conspire with to do that? The charge against him on the conversation with the Ukrainian was generated by an unnamed whistleblower. There's a reason he's unnamed, because the whistleblower's got a background and a history that makes it clear that he has a very serious case of hatred of Donald Trump, and therefore would do or say anything to hurt him, which makes his statement incredible, even before it was proven to be untrue. This is what we've let them get away with. It's got to stop. We're going to seek to have the evidence suppressed as being illegally obtained. There's so many ways it was illegal. I can't imagine that a decent court will not do that. But we're also going to consider what action can be taken so that the appropriate discipline takes place here. Because so far, the Justice Department and FBI, that for 4 or 5 years now under Democrat, Republican, Democrat, has been out of control, so that their behavior is controlled. And they realize they're going to pay a price when they lie again, when they leak again, when they use phony charges or minor charges to raid someone as if they're an organized criminal, a drug dealer, and then they don't do it when the evidence of crime is so clear with a Democrat, it's staring him in the face. And I don't know who to plead to. It'd be absurd to plead to Biden to straighten out the FBI. He's one of the people who corrupted it. And his history of crime is so strong, it'd be hypocritical for me to appeal to him to straighten it out. It is almost impossible for me to get my mind around the fact that he's president of the United States, and I have sitting in that hard drive that they didn't want to take proof that he's been committing crimes or taking money for his office, first Senate, then vice president, for 30 years. Very hard to contemplate. And I think you understand why they want to get rid of me, because I initiated both. I initiated the original charges about bribery with him that are completely true. And then the hard drive was given to me through my lawyer because nobody else would follow up on it. And he trusted us to follow up on it, and we did, only to have been met with the biggest censorship in American history by a group of people who don't understand what it is to be an American, but understand what it is to be greedy, to do anything for profit, and to cover up so that they can get benefits, which they are now getting from this new administration. Well, there'll be a lot more on this, I assure you. I hope this gives you an adequate understanding of what happened. If you want to see some of the details and the proof of what I'm saying, they're readily available on rudyscommonsense.com. Just go back to episodes basically 1 through 9, and then throughout, you'll see episodes in which further evidence was found about the criminality of the Biden crime family. But those first 8 show you the witnesses, show you the documents. You'll see an out-and-out money laundering transaction for $3.4 million involving the Biden family. You'll see the proof that he lied on the document for a gun license. You'll see the proof that he admitted to being a danger to the children. And you'll see the proof of the 30-year-long criminal conspiracy in which the big guy didn't get 10%. He got half. There was one deal for 10%, but the overall arrangement was 50% for Pop. Well, thank you very much for paying attention. I know this is a difficult group of facts to master, but this is going to be covered and be part of us, in our history, and it should be as accurate as possible. Thank you very much. We'll be back in a few days, and God bless America.